I've been thinking long and hard on this one. Over the last few years, the liberal Democrat attacks on conservative blacks have increased in number and ferocity. While I'm not surprised by this or the liberal media's silence over the casual use of normally taboo racial slurs directed at blacks, I'm left wondering, just why do we bother? I understand it's risky if you're a black Democrat to echo the ideas of conservative blacks that you may agree with. Groupthink is an ugly concept to go against. But as a black conservative, as a human being, I'm left asking myself, why am I going so far out of my way to try to convince those who are too lazy to pick up a book or do an internet search and see just who's been really using, thus keeping the black man and woman down? The following are a few minor bullet points, courtesy of my friend in Los Angeles, Larry Elder, and Reverend Wayne Perriman in Seattle. Democrats supported slavery and its expansion into the northern states. After the Civil War, 23 blacks, 13 of them ex-slaves, were elected to Congress, all as Republicans. That the first black Democrat was not elected to Congress until 1935 from the state of Illinois. That the first black congressional Democrat from a southern state was not elected until 1973. That Democrats in 1854 passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act that overturned the Missouri Compromise and allowed for the importation of slaves into the territories. Democrats opposed Senate Bill 60 of 1866 to give blacks 40 acres and a mule. It was Democratic President Andrew Johnson that vetoed the bill. Democrats opposed the 1866 Civil Rights Act. On July 4, 1867, in Houston, 150 blacks and 20 whites formed not the Black Texas Republican Party, but the Texas Republican Party. Blacks across southern states also founded the Republican parties in their states. In 1850, Democrats passed the Fugitive Slave Law. President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation during the Civil War. In 1865, the 13th Amendment emancipating the slaves was passed with 100% of Republicans voting for it and only 23% of Democrats voting for it. The 14th Amendment was passed giving the newly emancipated blacks full civil rights and federal guarantee of those rights, superseding any state laws. Every single voting Republican voted for the amendment. No Democrat voted for it. Congress passed the 15th Amendment in 1870, guaranteeing blacks the right to vote. Every single Republican voted for it, with every single Democrat voting against it. During 1872 congressional investigations, Democrats admitted beginning the Ku Klux Klan as an effort to stop the spread of the Republican Party and to reestablish Democratic control in southern states. Blacks who were all Republican at that time were the primary targets of violence. Southern Democrats like Al Gore Sr. and William Fulbright debated against the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Southern Democrats, including Al Gore Sr. and William Fulbright, debated against the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Democrats supported and participated in burning down middle-class black communities like those in Rosewood, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina, and the Greenwood District, Black Wall Street, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Between 1870 and 1875, the Republican Congress passed many pro-black civil rights laws. But in 1876, Democrats took control of the House and no further race-based civil rights laws passed until 1957. In 1892, Democrats gained control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, repealed all of the Republican-based civil rights laws. That enabled the Southern Democrats to pass the Jim Crow laws, poll taxes, literacy tests, and so on in their individual states. Only 64% of Democrats in Congress voted for the 1964 Civil Rights Act, while 80% of Republicans voted for the act. Democrats, in an effort to keep blacks in their place, used sadistic torture, terror, and violence, including lynching, mutilations, murder, decapitations, beatings, and burning to death countless numbers of blacks. Despite this material being readily available to anyone who shook off the label of acting white, actually learned to read, and can find this untaught American history easily, many blacks consider it the easy way out to just blame all their problems on racism. Ever wonder why conservative blacks are always called sellouts while liberal blacks like Jesse Jackson get a paycheck for being a racism watchdog? I've always wondered why he goes after any cause that will get him on the television or he targets corporations that will pay him off personally to make him go away. Jackson ignores the real problems in the black community because should they become cured, he'll lose his livelihood. So you may ask, what does the title of this segment mean, Time to Move On? There's that old expression about bringing the horse to water and trying to make it drink. Black conservatives have been spitting into the wind for years now, trying to wake up the sleeping black electorate to the sins of those whom consider themselves the party of civil rights. We have attempted to point our brethren in the right direction, pardon the pun, and have been called Sambos, Uncle Toms, lapdogs, and those slurs yet to be repudiated by those in the mainstream media or academia. Maybe we should just consider some a lost cause and just move on. There are some who enjoy their victim status and use it as a way of blaming others for their own laziness. There are many black folk out there who have used the education system to their benefit and are now self-reliant. They don't depend on a check from the government every month, and they are the true leaders in their community. There are those who live by blaming whites for their every misfortune, while they now have to live with the ramifications of their blowing off school earlier in life. They claim affirmative action will cure those ramifications. All affirmative action does is make every black person's qualifications suspect upon their first day at a new job and discriminate against persons who may be more qualified purely because of the color of their skin. Liberal blacks call that payback. Just who is perpetuating racism and discrimination in America? Those who believe rap music and sports are the only way out of a crime-ridden neighborhood can choose to live that fool's paradise while condemning others who choose to study. The entertainment industry can celebrate so-called adversity, but many of our hardcore street personalities actually came from middle-class backgrounds and made sound business decisions to get from point A to point B. Those who wish to elevate themselves must make a choice. Personal responsibility is not a catchphrase. It's a way of life that gives someone real control over their lives. Going to work isn't selling out. Not impregnating or being impregnated before age 14 isn't selling out. Teaching your kids that school and not the streets is the path to success isn't selling out. Selling out is taking a dump on the very opportunities this country has to offer and making something out of your dream. Sitting on your butt and blaming whites for your failings and demanding a monetary payoff is a waste of time because it will never happen. There are too many successful blacks in this nation to disprove the wildly held notion that racism is keeping us all down. For those of you who decide to take control of your lives, there is a home for you. I know it's been hard to stay in the closet because almost all around you would shun you or worse. But that closet is filling up, and soon there will be no place for independent blacks but to go out and up.